What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Love After Lockup. This is season 5, episode 46. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. So let's get into it. So I actually like this episode. I think it was a lot more enjoyable than last week's episode. At least I found some type of entertainment out of it. But the first couple I want to do is Teenie and Rob. So their scene picks up where it left off, where Rob is mad at Teenie for buying the $250 season passes to their local water park without Teenie buying those without telling him. And I guess they have a rule in their relationship that if it's a purchase over $100, they're supposed to talk about it. And she didn't do that. So they're arguing in the kitchen, and he's like, so you gonna get a job in 2 weeks? Because the last time we saw them, Rob did tell Teenie, hey, you need to get a job to help with the income. And she's like, yeah, I can get a job in 2 weeks. And so she's like, she was like, yes, I can get a job in 2 weeks, just like you could get that tattoo removed in 2 weeks on his arm. And it's the portrait of his ex. So he gets frustrated by that comment, and he storms out of the house. And he's basically in the confessional or on-site confessional being like, why would she even bring that up? She know I can't stand this tattoo and I want to get rid of it. So Teenie back in the house is like, I only said that because you're not going to be yelling at me and I don't have nothing to say back. Which I was like, that's petty, but at least you honest about it. So Rob comes back in the house and he's like, why would you bring up the tattoo? You know I want to get rid of this tattoo. And Teenie cops to the fact that she said it out of spite because she was like, you're not going to be yelling at me and I don't got nothing to say back. So she apologizes, he accepts it, and then he leaves the house. And so we see him actually go meet up with his father at the gym to play basketball. Rob looks just like his dad. While they're playing basketball, the dad ends up asking Rob, so have you talked to your mom? And he's like, well, not really. The last time we saw each other, her and Teenie got into it and she put her hands on Teenie. And I said, slow there, cowpoke. Okay. Teenie mushed that lady first. Now, do I think Rob's mom is problematic? Yeah, I do. I wouldn't want to be around the lady, and I definitely wouldn't want her to be my mother-in-law. But fair is fair. Teenie mushed that lady, and she popped her back. She can defend herself. So the dad is like, that doesn't really surprise me. She's stubborn and she's immature. We find out that Rob's dad and his mom had like a on again, off again relationship. They were always arguing about money. The dad ends up saying that they got together when they were really young. So, common things happen, when people get together when they're young, they always fighting. Rob says when the dad was there, he was involved, but then when he turned 15, things kind of started slowing down with him seeing him consistently. So we see them actually sit down on like a bench to have a water break, and Rob ends up saying that it's been kind of tough being out here. It's way different than what it was when I was locked up. Like, I got so many people's hopes and dreams riding on my back now, and I just want to make sure I'm successful. He also explains that being out in the streets at the age of 15 and doing what he do was far more enjoyable and calmer than being back at home. And he was even when he was young, his mom was always asking for money and stuff. And the dad ends up saying that I think prison actually saved your life, and that being out here in the free world is a lot faster than being back in prison. But you got to make sure you break generational curses, and you don't want Nehemiah to go down the same path as you. And so what we find out is that the dad back in 1992 or 1993 was charged for a drive-by where they accused him of unaliving somebody, but the charges got dismissed and he got off on the case. So he's like, even though I was found not guilty and I was innocent, those articles that came out really ruined my reputation. So it's been a slow road for me to build myself back up. He was like, you already got 2 strikes against you. You're black, you're a man, you need to make you can pick the 3rd strike. And Rob is like, yeah, Teenie always brings that up. So he's like, yeah, he wants to do better and he wants to make sure that he is the best that he could be for his family. We then end their scenes with Teenie and Rob going out on a date. They also bring up how Teenie got a job. It's like a celebration. She's going to be like a paralegal, making $50 an hour. I said, okay, girl, I see you. And so they go out to celebrate. We find out that Rob and Teenie used to have prison dates where they would find a movie and hit pause at the same time and play. Basically, like, I don't know if Netflix still does it. I know at the height of the pandemic, me and my friends used to do it where you could watch a movie together and like talk to each other like in the chat box. But I'm also like, in what prison was Rob in where he got access to like Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu, BET Plus, Tubi? Like, what kind of prison was he in? So they're really excited to go on this date together. While they're on the date, Rob basically is like, Teenie, now that you got a job, let's have a baby. I said, bro, what? So she just got a job. You want to knock her up so then she can go on maternity leave? Like, that doesn't make sense, sir. Like, you've been complaining about money. Why would you want to get her pregnant? And Teenie, you stupid, like, agreeing to it. Because she ends up saying that she's just scared because with her first child, her daughter, the father, unfortunately, he died. So she ended up taking care of her by herself. Then when she got pregnant with her son, that father just wasn't there. He was non-existent. So she's just like, I just need to make sure you gonna be there. And Rob is like, yeah, I've always wanted a girl. Like, of course I'm gonna be there. So we actually see them like throw away their condoms because that's what they've been using. And then, what they always do, shut the door when they get home to mimic like they having sex. Now, an update, I don't think Teenie pregnant, which is a good thing because, girl, what? Like, nobody on this cast is making smart decisions, and I feel bad for the children. What do you mean you want a baby, but y'all are not financially stable enough, and y'all are over here having discussions when people make purchases over $100? Y'all ain't got no money? Because to me, having to discuss $100 is crazy when bills be more than $100. Gas is for some cars is more than $100. Groceries is more than $100. Okay, like me having to discuss that with you every time lets me know y'all ain't got no money. It'd have been different if she was like, or Rob was like, yeah, we're supposed to discuss purchases over like $400 or $500 or $600. But a purchase over $100 is wild because I can spend $100 in a day just running errands. So next, let's talk about Britney and KY Rock. So the episode actually opens up with them where they are about to get married down at the local park where they have the quinceañeras, everybody's like 7th birthday, and there's basketball courts and a playground, and we by the pond where it stank with the ducks. Okay. And Britney ends up telling KY Rock, hey, I need to talk to you. So she pulls him to the side. He like, what's going on? Like, girl, we doing this or not? And she was like, I don't think we should do this because I talked to my PO and she suggests that we don't do this because this could hinder my chances into getting into Texas. So KY Rock is looking at her like, girl, what? And she's like, yeah, I talked to her and she said this isn't a good idea. So now he's upset and frustrated, which I understand. Because then Britney decides she gets emotional, like, this isn't how I wanted to get married. Like, this, like, And I honestly don't think the PO has anything to do with this. I don't think Britney wanted to get married this way. I don't think she wanted to only spend $600 on a wedding dress. I don't think she wanted to do her own hair and makeup. I definitely don't think she wanted to get married at the local park. I think Britney has pictured this extravagant wedding with her family and friends and KY Rock's family and friends watching them get married. And this was just her way of getting out of it. I do think that she should have told him well in advance because you got KY Rock at the bridge talking about, look at all this stuff that I did for her. And like, I just feel stupid because I put all this stuff together. And I said, sir, all you probably did was file paperwork to reserve your spot at the pond. And to be honest, can you even reserve a spot at a pond? Now, I've reserved a pavilion at a park, but like the pond, the area surrounding the pond is free game to anybody. So you ain't do much of nothing other than probably call the officiant and rent a tux. Like, I didn't even see any flowers and y'all went to the boutique to go get flowers. What we talking about? So Britney is like upset because Key Rock is upset. We actually see her tell Coffee and her friend that they're not getting that they're not eloping, and then Key Rock walks over and tells the officiant, "Thank you for your time, but like this isn't happening." And so he walks ahead of them. So then Coffee ends up going to Key Rock asking him like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Nah, like either you all in or you all out." And right now I feel like she's all out. Like she should have been told me this information, which I don't fault him. Like honestly, you could tell that Britney didn't want to elope. She should have just like woman up and been like, "Yo bro, I don't want to elope. I don't." So we see them in the car riding back to the apartment. You could tell that it's an attitude energy. He got an attitude, Britney feeling bad, and like they go into the house. So it's the next day, and Key Rock is packing like he about to go to Texas without Britney. And so Coffee is like, "What you doing?" And he's like, "I'm packing." And Britney's sitting at the kitchen table being like, "No, you're not. Like you're staying here. Like don't piss me off." And he's like, "No, I'm packing. Like I was gonna go to Texas without you anyway, even after we got married," knowing that's a lie, because the last time Britney suggested that he go down to Texas by himself, Key Rock was like, "No, I don't want to do that. Like it's either we go together or we don't go together." So now Key Rock is like, "Well, I'm gonna go down there so we could make some money because we not making no money here." So in the confessional, Key Rock is like, "I didn't even know this was in her character to not tell me this type of stuff, and then here lately it feel like she not telling me a lot of stuff." So Britney gets up and sits on the suitcase as Key Rock is packing, basically like, "You not going nowhere. Like just wait until I get confirmation from my PO that I can go. Like you're not going anywhere." So then we see Key Rock like tell Coffee to like, "Hey, hand me my phone," and like they rush out. Now mind you, I'm looking at Coffee like, I know you want them out your apartment. This apartment ain't big enough, and all this like running, causing a disturbance, running out the house, being so dramatic and toxic is too much for a small place like that. So Britney's following Key Rock all the way outside. Key Rock is just like, "I'm going to Texas," and Britney's like, "No, you're not." Like, and he was like, "Well, I'm not trying to break up with you. We good, but I'm going to Texas." And Britney's like, "Key Rock, don't play with me. You not going to Texas." So he's mad, and so he starts walking. And Britney is like, "Then I'ma just have to follow you." So she starts following him as he's walking. He's like, "You know what? I don't even want to get in a fight with you. Like, I don't want nobody calling the cops on us." And Britney's like, "Ain't nobody about to call the cops on us." And he's like, "Forgive me for being paranoid when I was in the joint for 7 years." When I tell you, Key Rock wants to be a DC nigga so bad. He wants to like Key Rock be acting like he Tyreek and Ghost is dead and it's his turn, you know, to run the block. And Britney out here acting like she on a novella running after her man, basically saying like, "Just wait a week because you only leaving because you upset. Like just wait a week." And I'm like, if y'all don't get this mess out of my face. So then Key Rock is like, "No, like I'm gonna go. Like I'm gonna go." And so Key Rock ends up being like, "You know what? I'm not going. So then he sits down on the bench, and she was like, "I understand that you're upset. I understand that you're frustrated, but you moving down to Texas mad like this when we haven't even figured out what's going on with us, that don't make sense to me." Honestly, the whole situation is stupid. From the beginning, they should have made sure that Texas was going to approve them instead of telling their whole entire family that everything was all good and moving down there without having the proper paperwork. And honestly, if Key Rock would have got off of probation, then I believe Key Rock should have been down in Texas already paying on bills and paying on the apartment and everything. And Britney should have went and lived with her aunt or with Coffee until she got approved by her PO or got off of probation or worked out some type of payment plan since she got to pay restitution, and then took her ass back down to Texas. But this whole running back and forth, they like to be toxic because you not gonna have me chasing after you. If I was Britney, I'd have just been like, "Leave." Because what we not about to do is, I'm not begging nobody to stay with me. That's just not what I'm doing. So let's talk about Bianca and Daniel. So we find out that it's been a month since Daniel has been out of prison and he's been able to acquire a job. I don't know why it's taking Joey so long, but here we are. Seems to be like the only person who's a felon that can't find no job. So we find out that Daniel has gotten himself a job. We see him in the kitchen with Bianca, basically telling her like he's excited, and it's been so long since he has a job. Bianca is complaining about having to drive Daniel to work. We find out that a stipulation for him being released is that he can't have a driver's license for a long time. He got a lot of DUIs. So Bianca is saying that like she's not going to be driving Daniel to work every day. Like that's not her job. And it's like, Bianca's such a weirdo and she's so immature and she's aggravating because I'm like, how do you expect you want him to get a job? He has a job, but he's going to need your help. Now, I know there's like a bus system out there. Maybe he can learn how to take the bus. But like for now, just drive that man to work. You don't have a job. You just sit on your ass all day. Why are you like forcing him to get a job when you keep saying that your settlement money can take care of you? What's going on, Bianca? What's going on? So she's complaining about having to take him to work. We actually see him get to work and it's him working for a moving company. And we see the boss and we see another coworker. It was so funny when they were sitting in the car talking about their trials and tribulations. The black guy, who's the other coworker, is sitting in between Daniel and his boss with the look on his face like, I ain't never been to prison. Don't lump me in with the lots of you guys. Okay, I just needed a job. Okay, I might... But basically, the owner of this company also used to be a felon, and he knows how hard it is to find a job and how hard it is to let go of how society perceives you after getting out of prison. So he was just like, if you stay on the straight and narrow path, you can have a prosperous life. So while Daniel is working, we see Bianca down at it looked like a comic book store where they play Yu-Gi-Oh and Dungeons and Dragons. And Bianca calls her friend. And this is the friend that we saw last season, Haley. The one that I said, if I was her, I would not be friends with Bianca, because Bianca tried to paint Haley out to be a hater when genuinely she was asking great questions and just worried about her friend. So Bianca's on the phone complaining about Daniel to Haley, basically wanting Daniel to do everything for her, because she did everything for Daniel while he was in prison, like putting money on his books and moving out to Arizona. She expects that man to basically be a slave and wait on her hand and foot because of what she did. And Daniel's like, that's not how this worked. But Bianca can't get over that. So she tells her friend that she wants her to come hang out with her because she hasn't really made any friends, in Arizona. So her friend's like, bet, but do you think Daniel's going to be okay with that? And Bianca's like, who cares? I pay for everything. And I'm like, see, that's wrong, because if he did it to you, you would be mad and frustrated and angry that he was basically treating you like a second-rate citizen in your home. So she ends up spending $130 on these elf figurines. We then see Daniel trying to call Bianca, but I'm confused by this scene because I think it was edited out of order, because in this one scene he has on his work shirt and it's dry, you see the sweat stains, but it doesn't look drenched. And he's calling and he finally gets an Uber because Bianca's not picking up. Bianca even complains where she's like, well, we didn't see her mouth. So that's why I feel like it was a made up scene, because she ends up being like, gosh, Daniel has been calling me 7 times, but we just see her, we see the back of her head, but we don't see her saying that. And then when Daniel gets home, his t-shirt is drenched in sweat. So I'm like, where did you go, or how did y'all film this? So he's about to sit on the couch, or he sits on the couch, and Bianca was like, you don't want to take a shower? And I am with her. Don't sit on no couch with dirty clothes on. And he's like, I'm tired. I'm about to go take a shower. And he was like, why didn't you pick up? And she was like, well, I was busy. And he was like, well, she was like, how'd you get back? And he's like, I took an Uber. And Bianca's like, how much was that? And Dan was like, it was $30. That's expensive. And she was just like, oh, okay. And then he looks at the figurines because she brings it out, because she's like, oh, I got something for us to do together as a couple. And Daniel's like, what is this? And she was like, it's figurines. We can paint them and stuff like that. And then Daniel's like, well, how much did you pay for this, Bianca? And she's like $130. He's like, what? Bianca, we ain't got no money right now. We ain't got no money. And she's like, we're fine. Like, we're good. Like, it's my money. Bianca thinks that that settlement money is always going to be there. But I'm like, I don't think she got that much of settlement money, because it's giving like you only got maybe, I would say, like $75,000 at the most. On the lowest amount, maybe 40 or 30,000, because Bianca is acting like she got like a $250 million settlement that she could live off of. Because Daniel even says when that money is gone, I'm not going to be paying for everything. Because now Bianca feels like she a sugar mama, but that's how the relationship started. And he's only been out of prison for a month and has a job. She's annoying. So since we talked about immature Bianca, let's talk about immature Justine and Michael. So this is a scene after they left the lawyer's office talking about the will, and Michael is still frustrated and hurt by Justine basically saying if anything happened to her, she would want her sons to go to her oldest daughter Kylie, who's like 19, in college. And Michael just feels like we're supposed to be a blended family. Why would you want to break up the family? And Justine basically tells Michael, you're not patient enough for me. Like, my child has autism. He's only ever known me and his sister, who are very patient and loving and kind to him. But I don't like the way that Justine talks about Kylie like she's a parent. She's your child. She's 19. And I understand that you think she would understand how to take care of her brothers. But at the end of the day, she shouldn't have to put her life on pause because you made a stupid decision, a very irresponsible decision. Like, you put your life in danger. So you shouldn't take her life away from her. I'm also like, you don't have any other adults in your life that you could use as a substitute other than like your daughter. As well as, why would you marry a man that you don't think is prepared to be able to handle your child with autism? I understand where Justine is coming from, that Michael does need patience, but I think Michael needs patience in general. Like, you need to find better ways to regulate your anger and your anxiety and being overwhelmed by this situation, because even if nothing happens to Justine, y'all still need to work on your parenting. There needs to be chores and disciplines, because that house is gross. And you can tell that they don't tell them kids really what to do. They just get to live, and it's a free for all. So the next day, we find out that unfortunately Michael's mom's house blew up. Basically, like, he says that he was on the phone with the mom, and no, on the phone with his brother at the mom's house, and then next thing you know, they heard a loud popping sound, and then they show us footage, and that house got burned down, like to the wooden frame. And I'm just kind of like, what was he cooking? Was it methamphetamine? Like, what was he cooking for the house to catch on fire? So now they are allowing the mom to move in with them, or basically retire in Las Vegas with them. So Justine is scared, especially since the last time the mom and her were basically like in each other's like company, she pulled out that pregnancy test, and ever since then Justine just don't really see it for the grandmother, which makes sense. So they're taking the family to a grocery store to go grocery shopping. In the car, Justine admits that like she's pretty much overwhelmed by this situation, and like she doesn't know what to truly expect with the mom coming. And the dad basically says, Michael is like, well, nothing's really gonna change. We just got to keep everything in order. We end up seeing Justine and Michael's oldest daughter having a conversation where she's like, I love my grandma. We never really keep anything from her, and I don't really think it was the best decision that my dad and Justine didn't tell her that she was pregnant. And Justine is just very fearful of how the mom is going to react to her being pregnant. And the daughter ends up saying that Justine and her mom used to be really close, but she don't know what happened. Honestly, I don't know what happened either, because it does seem like they were cool until Michael got out of prison. So I don't know if Michael is the root cause of why they're not cool anymore, or if the mom switched up on Justine, or if Justine switched up on the mom, but they need to get it together. So it's the next day, and we find out that Michael goes and picks up his mom. Mind you, they got to not have any money, because we found out that lady took like a Greyhound and 2 trains to get to Las Vegas. And I'm like, y'all didn't have no Y'all ain't had no plane money? Because I didn't they live on the East Coast? I mean, the farthest I've ever taken the Amtrak is from North Carolina to Florida. And that was a long ride. So I can only imagine taking the train from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast and having to switch trains. Like, that's a lot of moving your own luggage. And I'm just kind of like, you couldn't give your mama no money to fly a plane? Okay. So Justine is still nervous and worried. She's talking to the kids, and the kids are basically looking at their mama like, girl, you're like 30 something years old. Be an adult and just take the L. Just take the L and tell the mom, like, she can't spank you. She can't whoop you. She don't got nowhere to go. She just got to suck it up and just deal with it. So while they're in the car, the mom is talking about how she's excited to be retiring in Las Vegas. She also is just like, family means everything to her. And she's just grateful that they're opening their home to her. So she already complaining about how they need to water their plants outside of the house. You then see her go to the back of the house where all the kids are at the pool. She hugs Justine. But she doesn't notice that Justine has a blanket over her stomach, so she doesn't notice she's pregnant. So then Michael goes over to Justine and is like, let's just tell her. So the mom has the newest baby, Manhattan, in her arms, and then Justine is like, they call out to the mom's name. I think it was Michael. Michael calls out to the mom's name, and then she turns around. And when I say that lady is shocked, she's like, girl, what? And then the episode ends with them. So let's move over to another immature couple, Zaria and Troy. So we actually see them on their way to the dispensary. And I'm just kind of like, why are we going to the dispensary when we can't pay our rent and we haven't paid our employees? Priorities, okay? So Troy is extra excited because he been smoking since he was a kid, so he love it. And he's also excited because before he went to jail there were no dispensaries, so he doesn't really know what an inside of one looks like, so he's just like excited to go. So they pull up in there. Zaria's talking about, oh, these are my favorite things, and it's like this wall like talking about these THC pills, and she was like, this is for calmness, this is for this is for arousal. So he was like, oh, those are the ones you like, so we definitely getting those. And she was like, no, I've never tried them. But I was like, then how can these be the things that you like the most, which is these THC pills, girl? But okay. So while they're in the dispensary, they're just talking. And I don't know, dispensaries are kind of weird to me because on the one hand, I've smoked, so I'm just like, I don't think it's bad to smoke, but I just feel like when you think about all the people who are incarcerated for it right now or back in the day, and now it's like all these other people are profiting off of it and they're not facing the same consequences. It makes me just feel like all those people that are locked up should be set free. Especially if it was like a non-violent crime. Yeah, I do think they should be set free. And I oftentimes look for dispensaries that are like trying to sew back into programs that are trying to help lessen laws for those types of offenses and help those once they get out, of those who have been convicted, once they get out and are free. So Troy said he want to get as high as his mama, and Zaria's like, no. And I'm like, well, Miss Karen was lifted and it seemed like she was having a good time off them gummies. So we end up seeing Zaria and Troy go to the woods to smoke, and I was like, girl, what? Who be smoking in the wood? The last time I smoked in the woods, I was like, I had to have been like in high school. like I'm just like, I don't feel like people smoke in the woods anymore. It's like either on the patio or, in your car. I don't know. I was just like, in the woods, girl, you need to survey your surroundings. So while they're talking, Zaria basically wants to thank Troy for adopting her son Azrael. And she was just like, yeah, he's never had a father, but he loves you so much. And I don't know what was in that stuff that Troy was smoking, but he immediately got emotional and basically saying he ain't gonna never leave his kids again. I said kid because you didn't leave Azrael, you left baby Troy, so you ain't gonna never leave her again, sir. Okay, so he's just excited that Azrael sees him as his father and Troy adopted him. Because remember, during Love After Lockup, we found out that Zaria allowed Troy to sign the birth certificate. So we then get this conversation with them where Zaria basically wants to have a baby with Troy. And Troy is like, girl, that's another mouth to feed, another human being. I don't know if I'm ready for all of that. But we find out that she stopped taking her birth control pills because she said that's what was making her break out. Now, when I tell you, I watched that live or saw that clip of the live of Karen saying she got them bumps because of. I'm not even gonna say it, but I said, if you see that live, just type it in on YouTube or TikTok. When I tell you Karen was going in, and I mean she was going, it was like she was burning the bridge down between them two. She basically said that like the bumps on Zaria's face was because she allowed too many men to relieve themselves on her. I said, whoa. Okay. So their scene ends, but we find out that Zaria didn't tell Troy that she off the pill. So the next scene we get of Zaria and Troy is us finding out that Troy is taking Azrael, Zaria's son, to the science museum, and he's super excited. Troy is excited, but when Zaria was basically like, I'm a little nervous because what are you gonna do if he shuts down and doesn't want to talk to you anymore, or what are you gonna do when he gets frustrated and he walks away? It's giving that Azrael might be on the spectrum, because I was just like, at 11 years old, I wasn't just walking away. Like, or he might have behavioral issues, but I don't want to put that on him like that. I don't know. Their scene is weird to me, especially with all the information coming out where they are suggesting that he doesn't even live with Zaria. So I don't know. Maybe he's like aloof because he's just like, girl, I don't be at this house all the time. You not really my mama. Your mama, my grandma is my mama, sis. That's my mom and my daddy. But then again, I go back to when he saw Troy for the first time and he jumped on him and was like, daddy. So I'm like, it feels like a stark like contrast. Like he doesn't even seem like he's interested in Troy. So, because even in the flashback that they show of him talking to Zaria, it was very like, it wasn't given like he really cared. But Zaria is happy that Troy is in his life because she feels like he has changed for the better ever since Troy came around. She's like, he done got his diet together. He got him doing like activities and all this stuff. And I was like, and you couldn't get him to do that? You couldn't get him to do that. So while Troy is getting ready, next thing you know, we see a phone call from Karen where she ends up saying, I think she said, we got a problem. And Troy's like, what do you mean? And then their scene ends there. So our last couple is money hungry, cheating Kim and Joey. So we finally see them go to a attorney's office to start the process of Kim's divorce. So basically, while they're waiting, Joey is talking about how he's still frustrated at the fact that Kim lied to him about being divorced, as well as he loves Kim and he doesn't think Kim would cheat on him, but Kim has also cheated on everybody that she's been with, the same way Joey has cheated on everybody that he's been with. So basically, two cheaters, a match made in hell. Okay, great for them. So the two attorneys come in and they're like, what brings you to our office? And Kim is like, a divorce. And so she explains that like she is trying to get a divorce from her ex. And she says that they got married back in 2018. She caught him having an affair and she broke up with him and they've been legally separated, I think she said, since 2022. And so the attorney, one of the attorneys, because it's two of them, says that in the state of North Carolina, as long as one of the parties is a resident and you've been legally separated for a year with no like reconciliation in between that year, then you guys, you can start the process of getting a divorce. We just have to file the paperwork. She explains that they can serve the husband, but like he also has like 30 days to like respond to everything before the process gets started. And so Kim is like, okay, that's great. She then brings up how she wants to purchase a home, and she was like, does he have rights to that home? And the lady was like, no, he probably wouldn't, but it also depends on when the divorce is finalized. If he does have have any say or any claim to the home. So it's really just a strategy game. We then see like an on-site confessional with the two attorneys where the older attorney is like, honestly, it would just be better to just get a divorce than buy the home, but it's truly up to her. So the conversation continues with Kim telling the attorneys that there's a possibility that her oldest child is not her soon to be ex-husband, and she just wants to know, like, what will that process entail? Like, does he have rights to the oldest child? And the lawyers both look at like her like, what? Like the oldest one is like dumbfounded, and the younger lawyer is like, what in the Mari Povich is going on right about now? I am confused. Like, I'm disgusted and concerned. And so Kim explains that when she got married back in 2018, she was pregnant, but she wasn't sure if it was Joey's or if it was her soon to be ex. So pretty much Kim wants to know, if it comes out that their oldest child or her oldest child is not her soon to be ex-husband, does he have rights to the child? And the lawyer basically says, like, one of the lawyers basically says, like, hey, yeah and no. Like, if his name is on the birth certificate, yes. But if you do have proof that he is not the father, then he could relinquish his rights, or you could argue that in court. And so Joey pipes up being like, well, we might have evidence because it's going to hurt me to see another man take care of my child. And I'm like, dummy, he's been taking care of your child, which you don't know is your child, since you've been incarcerated for the past like 6 or 7 years. Like, what are you talking about? That's his kid. Are you crazy? Are you stupid? So then Kim is like, what about child support? Because we find out that the soon to be ex-husband has been paying $2,500 a month in child support. So now it makes sense how Joey was able to buy those rims in Greensboro, because he took the child support money, or Kim gave him the child support money. It also makes sense how she was able to afford that car, because she probably made a down payment with the saved up child support money. And now it seems like she's going to be trying to use that child support money to buy a house. Horrible. Okay, she is trash, just like Joey is trash. Because when the lawyer ends up saying that, like, if it does come out that that's not his kid, y'all gonna have to pay the child support back. When I tell you that gagged and cracked Joey's face and Kim's face, Kim was like, what do you mean pay it back? And the lawyer was like, you gonna have to pay it back because that's not his kid. So then she's like, so that means my check would solely go to bills and everything? And the lawyer was like, well, it should have been in the first place. Then Joey's like, well, we can't be worried about our money. We need that money. And then the lawyer's looking at Joey and Kim like, you do know that money is for your children, not for y'all. So then they had to clean it up, being like, oh yeah, we know that. So then the lawyer's like, do y'all have any other questions? And they're like, no, we're good. So as they're leaving the office, Kim is like, I'm really scared about this child support money. Like, we need that money. And Joey's like, well, we'll just have to pay $10 a month back for the rest of our life. And when I tell you, Kim is so stupid, because why would you ever allow a man that does not have a job, that hasn't had a job in like 6 years because he's a recovering drug addict, ever make you like dictate your financial decisions? Why would you ever let him pressure you into getting a DNA test on your child? Like, she's stupid, because now she's stressed because she's realizing, crap, I'm gonna have to pay this man $20,000 back in child support if it is true that that baby, like my oldest child, is his. And now you're stuck taking care of Joey and having to pay that man money back because you know Joey don't got it. She's just so stupid. And it also shows how like money hungry Kim and Joey are, because you could clearly see that they are now regretting questioning the paternity of this child on camera, because now they're just like, we need that money, we need it. Well, you ain't gonna need it anymore. So y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic, and definitely hop down in the comments below and share your thoughts with me. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.